Now, the BBC says it's apologised to President Trump for the way his speech on January 6th was edited in a Panorama, but they are arguing there's no basis for his defamation claim and are at this point refusing to pay compensation.
Yeah, really interesting issue this. So one we want to discuss with two guests this morning. I'm joined now by former Radio 4 feedback presenter Roger Bolton, who's in Birkenhead for us this morning. And here in the studio is Charlie Rowley, who was a former special advisor to Michael Gove. So very good morning to both of you. Roger Bolton, can I put the first question to you? I'm really curious to get your reaction to the BBC's response so far. They have apologised for the mistakes made in that Panorama programme, and they've also retracted it so that it's not going to be available on any platforms from now on. But they say they won't be paying any kind of compensation to President Trump. Do you think they've made the right call?
Yeah, of course it's the right call, and I don't think the government should interfere either. President Trump floods the zone with a whole range of stories. I don't think he's going to pursue this one much further. I mean, he's attempting to rewrite history, of course. That's what interests him, apart from the money involved. There's no way I think he would win a law case in this instance. So the BBC's proper tactic, and perhaps the government, is to play it very low-key. They've apologised, and then leave it up to him. And if he does say he's going to sue, then this process will take a year, 18 months, whatever, by which time he'll be involved with something else. So don't do anything more than that. Oh, by the way, don't repeat the mistake again.
Oh, yeah, that could do with not doing that, couldn't they, Roger? Charlie, what's your sense of this? I mean, on the principle of this, should the BBC, if Donald Trump decides to take this further and take this to court, should the BBC be paying licence payer fees?
Well, I don't think if it goes all that far that the licence fee will cover it. You know, we're not talking about a small claims court process. We're talking about an international government, the United States, suing the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. So I don't think the licence fee will cover it. I agree with Roger, to be fair. I think the BBC should apologise, as it has done. I think it needs to be very careful with its language and go as far as it can to apologise, which I don't think it has done. I think, you know, in some of the conversations I've heard, particularly with the splicing of the Panorama, it's still referred to as just a mistake.
There has been a personal letter now sent from the chair, Shamir Shah, hasn't there, personally to Donald Trump. Is that not enough of an apology for you?
I think it could have gone further. I mean, I don't think I would have allowed, you know, as a former special advisor, a government minister just to pop on television and say, oh, I think we've made a mistake, and just sort of kind of sweep it under the carpet. I would have gone a lot further to say this was a huge error of judgment. It fell well below the editorial standards that you'd expect of the BBC. A mistake is me like putting one sugar in your tea instead of two. You can sort of apologise, or no sugar at all. You know, you apologise for it, it's slightly inconvenient, you know, and you move on. But this is this is another issue that the BBC has had to face with its editorial standards that has fallen below what people expect on the back of Glastonbury, on the back of the inconsistency of how you treat presenters, whether it's Martin Croxall or Gary Lineker, for example. There seems to be a discrepancy of how they were treated. So lots of issues are there for the BBC to sort out, which is why I think when you're dealing with an international player as big as Donald Trump, you do need to be a bit more humble about the mistakes that have been made, be categorical in your apology, and hope that that can be the end of it.
So look, $1 billion will be £760 million. Their income from the licence fee at the year ending March 25 was $3.8 billion. So, I mean, it would cover it. It'd be a significant hit, but it would cover it. You don't see any problem with taxpayer money going towards Trump if he takes it that far?
Well, that money would be the starting point that goes to Donald Trump, I think. That wouldn't cover the ongoing, as Roger said, the longevity of what the case could be. Yeah. And plus then the BBC, the licence fee wouldn't be able to cover all the programming that it does, the brilliant programme that it does, because I have been a defender of the BBC, I've been a supporter of it, but it has made huge mistakes in the past. It needs to, on this occasion, be very, very open about that, be very self-critical and apologise in no uncertain terms to Donald Trump in the hope that this can go away so no taxpayer or licence fee payer gets copped for any kind of bill.
Let's pick up some of those points with Roger Bolton, who's listening in there. So, Roger, I mean, the BBC does look pretty confident that it feels that it has a strong case legally. It doesn't feel that they have defamed Donald Trump. However, we don't know what the president's reaction will be. If he does push ahead with suing the BBC, what's your feeling about this use of licence payers' money? Because they did have to cough up. It would come from that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it won't come to that. I mean, you can assess it in theory and in principle, and it's licence fee pay money. It's not taxpayers, by the way. It is different, and there is a distinction that matters there. No, look, it'll not come to that. It'll go into the long term. Should the BBC make any sort of payment ahead of any court case? No. Look, what Donald Trump is about rewriting history. The House of Representatives and the Senate all voted that he was guilty of what they called a self-coup. Not enough to impeach him because you need 2/3 majority in the Senate, but they agreed that was the case. The leader of at that time, the Republicans, said that he was morally responsible for what happened. So let's not pretend. He tried to ensure that at an American election, which is free and fair, the results were turned over. He called it the big steal. He's still aiming to do that. He's just pardoned 1,000 people, rioters who were involved in that. He's just pardoned a significant number of people who claimed that the polls were rigged. There's no evidence of that, and no court has ever demonstrated that. So what he's about now is continuing to rewrite history. Well, you can't go along with that, and you can't be bullied. So you say, we got it wrong, it's bad. And I think they have said that in pretty clear terms. You make sure it doesn't happen again, and you continue. Now, what he might do is take some vindictive action on BBC's operations in America. And he might start banning, for example, correspondence from the White House, or he could go further. There are things he could do. Well, you've just got to last it out. He will be gone in 3 years' time. The BBC, please God, won't, and impartial broadcasting won't. So you've got to not, go out of your way to offend a person like that, but you certainly don't kowtow to them. And you're very clear. You stick to what your job is to be impartial. And you don't allow him to get away with rewriting history, which is what he's about.
Roger, thank you for that, Charlie. We've only got about 45 seconds left. So look, that point there, in and of itself, is a reason to defend this case. Donald Trump is trying to rewrite what happened on January the 6th. He may not have said those things at exactly the same time, but after that speech, his supporters did march on the Capitol, did produce death threats towards Congress people, and there was a riot. Police officers were hurt and killed.
You're right, but the reporting of that on its own should have been enough. So there was no need to splice the clip that they did. And Roger's absolutely right. You should apologise and hope that it never happens again. But there's a story today in which Newsnight had spliced another speech together. So lots of still questions for the BBC, but let's hope the apology is enough to prevent whether it's the licence fee payer or indeed taxpayers, if it comes to that, ever having to pay a legal bill.
We'll find out who we want to do it at 10 p.m. tonight. Set your watches.
Charlie Rowley and Roger Bolton, thanks very much indeed.